Health inspectors of Reddit, what are your horror stories? Did a brief stint as a public health inspector in 2007. Not a pleasant job. Didn't stick it out for long. Couple highlights. Washing russets in the dish machine before baking. A low temp chlorine system. No less. An inch thick layer of dull pink scum found at the bottom of an ancient ice machine. Storage of frozen foods outdoors on a rooftop during the winter. No shelter. Covered in snow. Ravens picking at various boxes of raw meat and seafood. A dish pit with a foot deep sinkhole just in front of the machine. Covered with a pair of 2x6 planks to allow access. A line cook working the salad station with no pants. Quartz sanitizer bottles filled with oven degreaser. A line cook breaking a plate on the flat top grill and attempting to continue cooking without proper cleaning. Serious question. Is there some role that food workers have to wear pants? I wouldn't think that had to be said. It seems more like a human destiny violation than a health one. If nothing else, I would think you wouldn't want hot grease splattered on certain sensitive areas. But that's me. Not a health inspector, but we had a local Chinese restaurant get shut down for washing their dishes in the lake behind the restaurant. There used to be this restaurant in my town that got shut down years ago. It was like a Korean BBQ place. And everyone who remembers it claims the food was amazing. They are usually then a little hesitant to tell you why it got shut down. Apparently it was because they would recycle food. Food so nice they ate it twice. It sounds like the best slogan ever. Food so nice you'll eat it twice. I can definition see this as a potential slogan. I got a complaint that someone saw a mouse run through the kitchen and dining room, so I was like whatever, sure. I'll check it out. I get there and there is sewage backing up from the drains and starting to smell like shit. Okay. Pretty gross. I accidentally kicked the prep table and heard a pitter patter. Look in the aluminum foil. Roaches. Look in some of the food containers. Roaches. Look in back room. There is a wall/flat large object resting against the wall and I move it and the entire wall was covered in roaches. Shut them down pretty quick and had them call Orkin in front of me and make an appointment to get it resolved. This was about 2 years ago, so that was pretty interesting. Okay, but it doesn't sound like there were any mice so. False alarm. False alarm, like your co-alarm going off but instead it turns out your house is actually burning down. This comment actually made me laugh. Thank you. I've heard some horror stories from drug manufacturer audits. My favorite is this one. A company in China kept a door open in their manufacturing facility for ventilation. A huge no-no. When asked about it, they pointed to a 6-inch wall along the bottom of the door, a tripping hazard too, that they stated did a great job keeping out snakes and mice. Of course that little 6-inch barrier must have been added for a reason after the fact and certainly doesn't stop bats or birds or larger creatures in a drug manufacturing environment. Honorable mention to the drug company that had a strung up dead deer and a birthday cake in their drug storage cold room. That deer had a real shitty birthday. Obligatory not a health inspector, but I once worked at a popular Mexican chain here in Ours. We were in a shopping center and the flies were crazy. We literally could not keep them out of the store. Edit. It was a crazy summer heat level above 35 Celsius. Anyway, one day I was chasing a blowfly around and I saw it land on the chicken on the line and expel a bunch of tiny live maggots right into the food we were serving. Obviously I threw it out, but the thing that ducked me up was that nobody else in the store had ever seen that happen. And I'd only been there a couple of months. People definitely ate maggots before and probably after I worked there. Till that flies can have live births. Not all of them, and not really live births either. It's like those shark that have a pouch with the eggs in. I'm an insurance inspector. Went down to inspect the basement of a Chinese takeout restaurant, which seemed oddly small. Couldn't find the boiler or fuse box. Told this to the owner who removed a sheetrock wall. The grease trap had overflowed and there were at least 2 inches of grease on the floor. They had put down some wood planks to walk on. I was gagging. Truly one of the most disgusting sights I ever had the misfortune to see. This is an almost story. Same premise. Chinese restaurant. Sanitary sewer backed up. and was literally pumping feces into their basement. Put up a fake wall to block the door to the basement. That is until the basement smell was overpowering. At that point the sewage was almost 3 feet deep. I just couldn't believe it until I saw pictures. I used to work in a pizza place. One day, I grabbed a ketchup bottle off of one of the tables to fill it up. I opened it, and it was full of maggots. People had been using it. I worked at a certain fast food ice cream chain. One week we had a shake machine breakdown, so a repairman was called. The machine had been leaking the shake mix for months if not years. So much of the interior machinery was covered in months old, gooey shake mix with maggots that had gotten stuck in the goop and died. It's been 17 years and it still makes me feel queasy to think about. There was a teriyaki restaurant called Ichiban in my town that got shut down for not having soap in the employee restroom and for keeping room temperature chicken in a 5-gallon bucket next to the grill. This happened more than once. The health inspectors all called it. I keep on teriyaki. There was an Ichiban in my town that I really liked, but it closed down several years ago. Where did this happen? Not a health inspector, but the restaurant I currently work in, and I'm currently leaving due to all the shit, has been reusing flour for dredging fish. They use it all day. At the end of the night they wrap it up and leave it at room temp in the back. The next time they need it, they just sift out any visible lumps of flour caused by the fish juices that clumped it up previously. Our kitchen manager / chef lies about it when I've brought it up 3 times previously with him and the owner. Also there's changing labels constantly to keep from throwing product out after 7 days. Also they just recently reheated soup that was made on the 20th with chicken from the 18th in it to use as the soup of the day on the 29th. Duck that place. And that is when you're supposed to call the health department yourself. I know, I've been trying, but the manager does a good job at hiding any evidence. Take photo evidence. Not a health inspector, but watched a line cook leave a bathroom stall with her gloves on. Not wash, then go back into the kitchen. I really hope she changed gloves. Not saying anything about it is one of my biggest regrets. I saw that happen one time and immediately informed the person in charge. I saw the offender working at another business some weeks later. No, it was not a restaurant. Close bracket. Not an inspector, but I went to this little hole in the wall in Chinatown, San Francisco. The table was off to the side, and from where I was sitting I had a clear view of the swinging doors that lead into the kitchen. I watched a waiter carrying a full tray of food sneeze directly into the tray, shrug, and then carry the food out to the table. Who else shrugged? Atlas probably. Not a health inspector, but 2 different Wendy's 20 miles apart were shut down for selling drugs out of the drive-thru. If they shut down every fast food place that was selling drugs on the DL, there would be no fast food places left. Like 80% plus of restaurants in general. There's always someone in the kitchen who can hook you up. Of course we've got mushrooms. Local Chinese place was closed because the inspector found seagulls in the freezer. They claimed that they never served them to customers, but we are eating them themselves. Saw another comment below where someone said a Chinese place was closed for the same thing. Doubt it's the same place. My local place wasn't a buffet. The thought of this happening at numerous Chinese places makes me happy to be a vegetarian. A lot of hole-in-the-wall Chinese restaurants are a tad sketchy. Me protein is protein and it tastes delicious once in a while. Not a health inspector, but back in 2008, a Chinese restaurant here in Buffalo got shut down for butchering a deer inside the restaurant. No one knew if it was roadkill or not. You're not allowed to butcher animals on the premises. I live in the area. I remember this happening well. There was another restaurant with a similar name to them that had menus printed afterwards stating that they weren't related to the other one. Felt bad for them, because their business must have taken a hit for them to have to print new menus with that on them. Never had an issue with that place. Their food's always been excellent. Hunting's pretty common around here in the South Towns. And I like that occurred in the late fall / early winter. So it would have been in season. I mean, it cold been roadkill. but it happened around the time of the year deer season was going on, I believe. I think the deer is the one that took the hit. My dad used to tell me about this local Sonic that got shut down because 2 workers were found shitting in the chili, and come to find out they had been doing it for some time. If you cook shit, is it safe to eat? I wouldn't go any higher than medium rare. God damn it. No ducking sub on here is safe from budgers or shit. My god. It's what binds us all. Again, not an inspector, but I knew a chef that would wipe plates with his sweat rag. Yuck. Made my own food there lol. Saving up on salt. Brochure salt. A family member pulled up to inspect a Chinese restaurant and saw them dragging a carcass through the back doors. He demanded to enter the kitchen and saw them chopping up a deer that an employee had hit with their car. Had a Chinese where we live that serves delicious all-you-can-eat buffets. Health inspector turned up while we were there eating and closed the place down as they weren't using chicken. It was seagull. Chicken of the beach. Chicken of the sea. Not a lot of health inspectors on Reddit, I guess. They had a wasp infestation in the walls. It was terrifying. They were trying to crawl off the electrical sockets and you could hear buzzing coming from all around. It was one of the most terrifying days of my life in that building. I read that as warp infestation. I've been reading far too much 40k. Exterminatus. Yet another not a health inspector, but when I worked on point of sale systems I called them on one of my customers after the second time one of their kitchen ticket printers broke down because it was full of dead roaches. Not a health inspector, but my mom was. She went into this house of 3 people, mom, dad, child we believe, and they had a bad cockroach infestation. I mean a really bad one. They legit had them in the stove, refrigerator and everything. The worst part is that they were quite weaselly and said to my mom, sorry about the roaches, we consider them family by now, and continued to name the ones that they got attached to r/whitefish and in trouble. I'm actually applying for this job soon, and you're making me scared. Well, at least it'll make for some interesting stories. Not a health inspector, but a line cook. I used to work at a chain that's best described as adult Chuck E. Cheese. The only logical reason that we weren't shut down is that we had to be bribing the health inspector. It's the only thing that makes sense. Our fryer drain broke so for a month or so my boss told us we didn't clean the oil, and when it was finally fixed there was so much shit on the bottom the drain clogged. We had a breading station for chicken tenders where the fan to help keep it cold. There were other ways it would be cold, this was just one of them, was broken and missing, and a pool of black water just sat there. I'd always clean the station at the end of the night when it was coated in chicken and calamari juice and flour, and I would gag at the smell. Just under the grill probably had a roach colony or something. If you put anything there it'd come out with at least 4 roaches on it. I've been working in kitchens for almost a decade and that is easily the grossest kitchen I've ever worked. To this day, if someone tells me they like this chain, I'll tell them not to go to that particular one. I'm scared of going to Dave & Buster's now. Not a health inspector, but a friend I knew in HS worked at KFC, and he said he was going to come in the mashed potatoes. I doubt he ever did do it. So that's why the mashed potatoes were extra creamy. Not an inspector, but my friend's sister worked at a restaurant, and he told me that they washed dishes with snow during the winter time to save money. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.